Hey, I'm Scott and I'm an American in Bangkok. Today we're going to discuss taxis, tuk-tuks, and motorcycle taxis. Um, Taxis in Thailand don't exactly have the greatest reputation, but for the most part, taxi drivers, they're just hard-working people who want you to get you from point A to point B, get their money, move on to the next customer. So anyway, we're going to talk about a few things that can help you to avoid problems and to just have a better experience when you're using any of these modes of transportation. The first thing is it's very, very simple. Use a taxi with a meter. If it doesn't have a meter, don't take the taxi. Simple as that. Whether you're at the airport, whether you're standing out on the middle of a busy street somewhere in the center of Bangkok, it doesn't matter. Bangkok taxis have meters and they have them for a reason, and really if you take a taxi with a meter, you know, the worst that's going to happen is maybe they have the meter rigged, but chances are that you'll have less problems than if you just try to negotiate a fare with somebody, because usually when they try to negotiate a fare with you, it's because it's in their benefit. It benefits them. They're gonna make a higher fare. So, you know, that's one thing. Generally, you don't want to take a taxi that's sitting most of the time. If they're sitting, they're not out looking for work. Guys who are driving around in their taxi, for the most part, they're looking for customers. They're looking for fares. And if a guy's sitting there, like at Pat Pong, he's just waiting for some poor guy to come along, and maybe he'll say, "Hey, 200 baht. 200 baht, it cost me 50 baht if I use the meter. 200 baht, okay, 150. And then he's making out more. I mean, you know, most of the time this is not a big deal. I mean, you know, you might think it's only 100 baht or something like that, but if you're doing it day in and day out, just really use the meter. Don't take a taxi without a meter. If a guy says no, he doesn't want to use a meter, then just say thank you, close the door, and move on to the next taxi. Simple as that. If you're outside of your hotel and the hotel doesn't have a taxi, and sometimes they will charge you a premium for using their service, their taxi. But if they don't, and you go outside and some driver's out there and he refuses to turn on his meter, go back inside, tell the hotel, the staff, say, listen, get me a taxi. Simple as that. Most of the time they have no problem. They'll flag you down a taxi, tell them where you want to go or whatever. It brings me to the next point, which is if you don't speak any Thai or you don't know where you're going, get a business card or a piece of paper or whatever, print it out from the internet, whatever it is, wherever you're going, try to have it in Thai. That also helps. It's not always necessary, but it does help sometimes. But getting back to the hotel, if a hotel says no, just take this guy out here, you tell them no, I want a meter taxi. There's absolutely no reason why you shouldn't use a meter taxi. That's what meters are for. That's why it's a law. If you do have any problems, the first thing you want to do when you get into a taxi, so that if you do have a problem, is take a look at the yellow identification tag in the back. There's a little metal tag and it has in Thai writing and then it has some numbers. Take a photo of that with your cell phone, or just write it down if you can. Just do the best you can. Also note that the name of the driver, this is in the front left passenger side, right by the window. It'll have a little placard with the name of the driver and it'll have a number. Try to make sure that driver matches the person on the little yellow card. Sometimes it doesn't, but even if you know that person's name, if you can remember it or take a photo of it discreetly, that would help if you have any problems. Just if you do have a problem, don't engage the taxi driver and try to get into some kind of physical confrontation. Don't argue with them. Just get out of the taxi. Then you call the tourist police at 1155 or the regular police at 191 or the land transportation, which is at 1584. I think that's what it is. Yeah, 1584. And they will handle the matter. and they don't like it when taxi drivers abuse tourists because it's bad for Thailand's image. So that's what you do. Don't argue. Definitely do not get into a fight. There are plenty of stories where foreigners are beaten or killed by drivers, and usually it's over next to nothing. And the thing is that you may think you can handle a guy, and I've got into confrontations with a guy, and I had a guy pull a machete on me once, and I just ran. And fortunately, he was old and couldn't keep up with me. But I've also got into a couple of scraps with guys when I first came over here, and one guy pulled a crowbar out of the back of his car, and as soon as he started pulling it out, I punched him in the face, and then I ran, and that was the end of that. But that was a dumb thing to do. So don't get into any kind of physical confrontation. Definitely just get out. Just as soon as you can stop, as soon as you can get out, you tell the driver, oh, I'm sorry, I need to get out here, I forgot, or whatever. Make an excuse. Get out. And then you can call the police or whatever. And that goes for if the guy's drunk or if you think he's on drugs or anything like that. Just call the land transportation department at 1584 or the tourist police. It's very easy because you don't. What happens is after a while, these guys start building up a record, and if they get 3 strikes on their record, then they're no longer allowed to drive. So that means they'll have to drive illegally. So it benefits them to treat the tourists. It benefits them to treat them better. You know, they cannot abuse the tourist, and most of them are decent and they don't do that. I don't want to get that. I don't want to misconstrue anything that, you know, I think like all taxi drivers are bad. I don't. The majority of them are good. But once in a while you'll get into a taxi, and for me, I can almost feel it. I feel like there's some kind of an attitude coming from the guy. And what I do is I just put on a pair of headphones, turn on my music. As long as he's going the way that I want him to go, then I got nothing else to say. It doesn't matter. Get me from point A to point B. That's your job. Get me there safely, and end of story. If you're in the airport, go to the airport stand. There's a taxi stand at the airport, and you pay an extra 50 baht, but you have a record of it. You have a piece of paper, and everything's on camera. So I think it benefits you if you use that taxi stand. But if you don't want to, you want to save a couple of bucks, just walk outside and get a taxi. You can get one, and they'll turn the meter on without fail. Now, when you reach your destination, what you want to do, I know it sounds silly, but exit the taxi ass end first. And there's a reason for that. If your ass is pointing out when you're exiting the taxi, you're looking into the taxi and you can see if you've left anything behind. I've dropped money. I've lost sunglasses. I lost a pair of sunglasses worth 150 bucks. I've lost a couple of phones. I've actually left, I think, 2 phones in the taxi and got them back because I remembered, the taxi, and I remembered the guy, and the guy was decent to me or whatever, and I just called the phone. He answered. I said, "Can you please come back?" I gave him, 100 or 200 baht, whatever it cost him to come back, and a little bit extra, and then I got my phone back. So I was very fortunate in those cases, but. If you exit with your rear end first, then you're looking in. And just the other day, I left my wallet. I think it's 2 days ago. I left my wallet in the back. I had put it down while I was drinking some water, and I exited, and there's my wallet. I grabbed it, no problem, because I've got myself in the habit of exiting that way. Also, when you get out, be very careful from motorcycles. Sometimes you can just open the door, and some guy will be screaming down the road. He's trying to take a little shortcut and go in between cars, and he'll run right into your door. So you have to, when you get out of a taxi, always take a look before you get out, look before you leave, because it is kind of dangerous. And I have had one incident when a guy drove in between the car and the sidewalk, the taxi and the sidewalk, and he smashed right into the door. And he was a little bit hurt, but he shouldn't have been driving there in the first place. So, but I didn't get hurt because I saw it at the last second and tried to close the door, but he smashed right into it anyway. So, hey, what are you gonna do? As far as tuk-tuks go, I'll make it very clear. I don't like tuk-tuks, tuk-tuk drivers. I like the tuk-tuks. I think they're cool, but I don't like the drivers. Most of them are a bunch of shysters, scammers, whatever you want to call them. If you do go in a tuk-tuk, make sure your Thai girlfriend negotiates ahead of time or whatever, but there is no such thing as a free ride. Some guy's not going to take you all over town and take you to temples and do this and do that unless he's making some cash for his time. So, unless you feel like paying extra, then don't take a tuk-tuk. I mean, because really, the Thai people can get away with it because they know what the approximate price is. But guys who are coming here and they're tourists and they just want to see something. This guy might charge him $20. It costs $2 to get down the road, and the guy's like, "Oh, okay, I'll give you the money, no problem. You're poor or whatever it is." I mean, if you're feeling generous and that's what you want to do, great. But for me, listen, I don't ride in a tuk-tuk. I've only ridden a tuk-tuk twice. One time was on my own, and I had to tell the guy, "Let me out. You're not taking me where I want," and I'm getting pissed off because I want to go where I want to go, not where you want me to go. The second time, my wife and I had something that was oversized, and we couldn't fit it into a taxi, so she saw a tuk-tuk, she negotiated a price with them, we got in it, and that's the only times that I've ever used a tuk-tuk. One other thing I forgot with the taxis is that with taxis, it's illegal for them not to pick you up. That doesn't mean that they'll pass you by or they'll tell you no, they're not going to take you where you want to go. But it is technically illegal. Every single taxi is supposed to pick up their fare. If they see somebody on the side of the road and you open the door to get in, they are not supposed to deny you. So if they do, you can call up the land transportation if you really want to be difficult and say, "Hey, I was standing in the rain and this guy didn't pick me up. I told him I want to go to Bangkok from Sukhumvit, and it's a 45-minute drive, but hey, I needed a ride." And the guy turned me down and he drove away. In some situations it's very frustrating because I've been in situations where 5 or 6 taxis have told me no, they don't want to go where I want them to take me, and then they complain about they don't make enough money and they have to raise the starting fare of the taxis. But I'm sorry if there's traffic. I'm sorry if there's, if it's not the way that you want to go or it's the wrong time of the day. But, the bottom line is it's your job. And if you don't want to do the job, then don't be a driver. Sometimes they will tell you that their shift is almost over, and it might be true. They get charged if they're late when they return the taxi, if they're renting the taxi. But nevertheless, there is a law in place that says they're supposed to pick you up. So, let me get back to the tuk-tuks now. If you do, for whatever reason, take a tuk-tuk, don't go to a gem shop with them because there's a reason why they're taking you to a gem shop, and it's so they can make money. Okay? I despise tuk-tuks. I don't like them. I ignore them, and they don't particularly like that, but you know what? I don't care. I don't owe them a response. I don't owe them anything. If they want me to ride in their tuk-tuk, then maybe what they need to do is start treating people better and more fairly, foreigners more fairly, and giving them an appropriate price instead of just trying to rip them off. I mean, I wish they had meters on tuk-tuks, but they don't, so that's the way it goes. The next thing is motorcycle taxis. Listen, I almost never have problems with motorcycle taxis, but the one thing about motorcycle taxis is that motorcycles are dangerous. I know. I used to ride a motorcycle in the U.S. I had 5 or 6 motorcycles. It was my primary mode of transportation in the U.S. I think I only had 2 cars. The rest of the time I had motorcycles. I went everywhere on my motorcycle. In the rain, in the sun, didn't matter. I went on my motorcycle. Now I'm older. I don't want to ride a motorcycle. I've had 2 serious accidents. One of which I was out of action for a month. I was in a hospital for a couple of weeks. And my wife's nephew was actually killed in a motorcycle accident a couple of years ago, which was pretty horrible. And so we don't let our kids go on a motorcycle. We try not to take motorcycle taxis anytime we can avoid it. My wife sometimes will take it down the street to get to where the bus is or where the boat taxi is. but that's about it. And very rarely do I take them anymore because I just don't want to hit the deck and have to recover. I know it'll be very difficult for me to recover from a bad accident, and you know, of course it can be fatal. The other thing is, if you're going to use a motorcycle, first, negotiate the fare beforehand, and second, even if it's one of those cheap, flimsy little plastic helmets, use it. If you do know you're going to get in an accident, maybe you can pull that thing over and hold it onto your head so that if you do hit head first, you're going to hit the plastic and the thing's not going to fly off. By all means, use it. They're cheap, they're smelly, they're pretty useless most of the time, but you never know, it might save your life. So some protection is better than none. Also, if the driver is going too fast, don't be scared to tell him to slow down. In Thai, you can say "Prod pu cha cha." Wait, excuse me. In Thai, you can say "Prod pai cha cha," or you can just say "cha cha." Cha is slow. Also, in English, most of the time they'll understand just saying slowly, slowly. If they still refuse to slow down, just tell the guy, hey, stop, pull over. You give them whatever is fair, and you find another motorcycle or a taxi or whatever it takes. Because sometimes they just don't listen. They're just in a hurry. They want to get that money as quickly as they can and get you to where you want to go, and then get back and find another fare or whatever so they can make more money. And it's just not worth it because sometimes they are reckless. But most of the time they're pretty safe. But you know, I've had, on a few occasions, I've had to say, hey, slow down, you know, I want to live. So that's very important. Just remember to say that if it comes down to a pinch and you don't speak Thai, just say slowly. And most of the time they'll understand that. Now, in all of these cases, with the taxi, the tuk-tuk, and the motorcycle, try to make sure that the driver knows where you want to go before you depart. That does help. And if you have to, like I said, have a business card, have a printout, whatever. Get somebody to tell them where you want to go. But make sure they know where you want to go. And if they don't, make them stop and ask a motorcycle driver or ask someone. Okay, they can find out. The other thing is, you know, you don't need to go to a hotel or a massage parlor if it's some guy driving a taxi is telling you is the best place in town. They're making a commission. It's very simple. By now, I think people know this, but people know a lot of things, and yet they still do things they shouldn't do. So, you know, I got to say it, but don't go to a massage parlor or a hotel, because a lot of times they've tacked on a few hundred baht as a commission charge, and this is money that you don't have to spend. I mean, you know, it's just a waste. So, you know, you want a hotel, go online, talk to somebody, whatever, send me an email. Do whatever you got to do, but you don't need to go through your local tuk-tuk or motorcycle driver or taxi. So, you know, don't throw that money away. Okay, that's all for now. I hope I've helped a little bit. If you have any questions, please let me know. Click subscribe, please. Also, click like. Visit my Facebook at AnAmericanInBangkok.com. My website, www.AnAmericanInBangkok.com. Yada, yada, yada. Until next time, chok di la, check and my. That's good luck and see you later.